I'm moving over here. I feel like I'm on an episode of Chopped. Chocolate chip cookies. I feel like I've got the weight of the world on my shoulders today. Hello everybody, my name is Vaughn. I am a video journalist for NYT Cooking. And today I am going to be making, I really do say it every time, but I promise, this could be one of the most iconic New York Times recipes. It is David Leite's chocolate chip cookies. It really is one of those cookies when you eat it, you're like, this is the platonic ideal of a chocolate chip cookie. It is everything that I want it to be. It's got a really chewy center, it's got a crispy edge, it's got kind of that third magical texture where the two meet that's amazing. It's got like puddles of chocolate, it's got salt on top. So today, I'm gonna make that iconic New York Times chocolate chip cookie recipe as intended, as written, and then I'm gonna do a few different variations on it. I want to see, is it worth it chilling the dough? Is it worth it to, use the different types of flours? I wanna test out some of the variations that you all have suggested in the comments section. What's in a chocolate chip cookie? A chocolate chip cookie by any other name wouldn't be so sweet. This recipe calls for bread flour and cake flour. Bread flour is something that is higher in protein and has a higher percentage of gluten in it. So it is something that I think adds more structure to the cookie overall. The other flour that is used is cake flour. So it's almost like the bread flour is providing our exterior and the cake flour is providing that chewy interior. They both do different things for the cookie. Another really important thing to any chocolate chip cookie, any baked good really, is salt. So when David was doing his reporting, he asked the queen herself, Dory Greenspan, is there anything that's missing? And the thing that she saw, she was like, well, none of these chefs or bakers really talk about salt. Salt is like the most important thing in a baked good to kind of bring out the flavor. So this recipe does have a good amount of salt in it, and it's got salt on top, and trust me, it's not optional. Butter is the kind of like fat that's going to provide a lot of that structure. When you cream it together, you kind of want the butter and sugar to become this really homogeneous mixture. You almost want the sugar to dissolve a little bit in the butter. The sugars, like our flours, do different things. Brown sugar aids in the chewiness of the cookie, whereas white sugar aids in both the spread of the cookie and also the kind of crisp of the cookie. I'm gonna beat together the butter and the sugars. This is gonna go for about 5 minutes, and in that 5 minutes, you're gonna see it turn from kind of this like sandy consistency that it's at right now to something that's like really light and creamy. The color is gonna change at like 2 shades lighter at least. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna add the eggs one by one. You wanna add the egg while the mixer is running on like a low, medium, low speed. And then before you add the other egg, you wanna wait until that egg has pretty much disappeared. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add the dry ingredients in here. I'm gonna sift them into the bowl. And this is really helpful because it makes sure that your leavener and your salt is evenly dispersed in throughout. A nice little trick is to cover your stand mixer with a towel right at the start of you mixing your dry ingredients. You wanna make sure that you go slowly. And then that way, you don't have a big cloud of flour. And then hopefully it's like almost there. You'll hear the mixer starting to work a little harder. Are you ready for the big reveal? Perfect. When David Leite was interviewing people, he went to the famed Jacques Torres, and at Jacques Torres they use these things called like discs or fèves. And when you use a chocolate chip, it is coated in something on the outside, which is kind of like a stabilizer almost, and it prevents it from melting actually. So when you use something like this, or when you chop a bar of chocolate, it doesn't have that coating on the outside, and it creates these like gorgeous puddles of chocolate in your cookie. So I'm just gonna add these, and the recipe does state to take care to not like break any of these discs up. So I'm just gonna really kind of like fold in the chocolate chips. The most important tip that David got from all of these bakers when he was interviewing them for his story was you gotta chill your dough. Now, it might seem like an unnecessary step, but chocolate chip cookies is one of those things that, because of the ratio of like flours and butter and all that stuff that's in there, you have to let that flour hydrate with the butter in order for you to get a really well-textured cookie in the end. And I have a swap that I made yesterday. So you can see that like after this is chilled for 24 hours, this one looks a little bit darker. It's a little bit denser, a little heftier, and this one's still really light. And it's the same exact recipe, it's the same exact ingredients that I've used. It is just the difference in the hydration. So we're gonna test these 24-hour cookies. I also set up some dough 72 hours ago, and we're gonna taste those to see what the texture and flavor difference is. Because the recipe states you can do it even up to 72 hours. It might be a little hard to scoop. I actually did see some comments that it is easier to pre-scoop your dough, which it totally is. Oh. Oh, yep, nope. So I have like this little bit of chocolate that was poking out, and I'm just gonna kind of press it on top because I feel like when that bakes, it'll be that really nice like puddle of chocolate in the middle of that cookie. The pièce de résistance, the last little finishing touch that you wanna do is add some flaky sea salt to the top of each cookie. Okay, I'm really excited. I gotta get these in the oven. We're up, it's go time. These look crazy in the best way possible. I mean, that is like the perfect cookie. Wow. I'm gonna leave these here to cool, and then I'm gonna transfer them to a wire rack. If I tried to transfer them now, they would just like completely collapse apart. I will say, like a couple of these, which is totally fine, because I didn't space them out enough, got a little too close. So what you can do, while it's still like warm and the dough is still a little bit malleable, you can take a spatula and you can kind of just like configure the cookie back into a more circular shape. This cookie is bringing a tear to my eye. It is like, this is when I talk about a pool of chocolate, this is what I mean by a pool of chocolate. I am diving into the deep end. That is a perfect cookie. Back from lunch, highly caffeinated. So we just baked the chilled 24-hour cookie dough as the recipe intended. That is our control cookie. And now we're gonna bake some of our variables. So I just scooped out the dough that I made on set today, which has had 0 chill time, and I'm gonna pop those in the oven and bake them. These are my 72-hour hydrated cookies. As you can see, I scooped them ahead of time. That was one of the top comments that I saw, and you can just kind of plop these onto a baking sheet lined with parchment, and you're ready to go. Another great tip, you can pop these into the freezer and you can bake off like on-demand cookies, which is a very hot tip. Why are there only 14? Oh, I feel like I was just inceptioned myself. When I made this at home a few days ago, I actually did take 3 of these and I put them in my freezer, like legitimately, so that I can have my cookies on demand. That's why I only have, I just felt like I was in truly another dimension just then. Okay, these are going into the oven. So those were a couple of good suggestions that I saw from people, but the top comment on this recipe is about the use of all-purpose flour in lieu of bread flour and cake flour. Oh yeah, this is gonna be way too small. I love picking a bowl that's just like comically small. I'm just gonna continue with the recipe straight through. Okay, so I just scooped them, and I'm gonna put these in the fridge for the crew to take home, because I really am a big proponent of having these chill out in the fridge for a little bit. So these are a gift for everyone here. But I do have a swap that I made yesterday using all-purpose flour. I'm just gonna put these on a baking sheet and bake them off. It sounds like a spaceship when you open this thing. Oh no.
What?
Oh no. Okay, well, take two. All right, somebody's getting fired. We have 24-hour chilled, 0-hour chilled, 72-hour chilled, all-purpose flour, all going. Now we're gonna make maybe what's my favorite. I mean, I can't say that yet because I haven't tried all of them, but I love brown butter in a lot of different applications, but I feel like a chocolate chip cookie is one of those applications where like brown butter really takes it to the next level, and also you taste the brown butter a lot. So when you brown butter, you're melting it beyond the point of it just getting liquefied. You're actually browning the milk solids that are in the butter. So yeah, you're gonna start off with these like very kind of vigorous bubbles as like little pockets of water are escaping. And then when they even out, the bubbles start to kind of just get a little bit smaller. That's when your butter is browning. This is when you want to keep an eye on it, because this is when it can go from brown to burn pretty quickly. It's starting to smell a little nutty. You can see the color is changing a little bit on the bottom there. Underneath all that foam are those brown bits that I'm kind of getting up with my spatula here. I'm gonna go ahead and take it off the heat. Wow, that smells so good. So you see down at the bottom, those are those like brown milk solids, and that's your brown butter. Pour this directly in. This is your flavor. Like those are all of the brown milk solids. That's what's imparting all that like really nutty flavor into there. It's not gonna whip up quite like your softened butter will, but it's definitely going to change in texture. And when you add the eggs, it'll become a lot smoother. And kind of the nice thing about the brown butter, because it's melted, is that the flour mixes in a lot easier. And I think that it scoops a lot better. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. Now, the other thing that a lot of people comment about is, you know, different types of chocolate. So you can use bars of chocolate and you can just chop it up. And the nice thing about this is that you'll get different like sizes and variations of chocolate in there. And another thing that I would love to do to this cookie, because this is kind of like, I think gonna be my ultimate cookie, is I'm gonna add some milk chocolate in there too. Now I'm just gonna scoop this out into the mounds of dough, and then I would refrigerate this for anywhere from 24 to probably 72 hours. My ideal would probably be about like a 48-hour cookie. But I have a swap. That's a beautiful looking cookie. You can just tell that these are a little bit darker in color than all the other ones because of the brown butter. They just look a little bit more butterscotchy, and I can already smell them. It smells really good, and I'm excited to bake these off. This is ridiculous. Oh no! Oh, soldier down. Okay. This is maybe one of the crazier things I've ever done. So I think what I gotta do is I gotta try the 24-hour cookie first. Obviously, you can't have cookie without a little bit of milk. Visually, looking at these, the 24-hour ones do look the best. She's a hefty gal. I mean, just by opening it, you can see like all of the different textures in there. You've got, again, those like ripples of chocolate throughout, which is like amazing. It's chewy, but it's not greasy. It's not underdone by any means. It's just really nice and like soft. Now I gotta go with the 0 hour. You can see just from like looking at these cookies what the difference is. Okay, so that one did not have a lot of give to it. It kind of just snapped in half. Still a really good cookie. I mean, it's still a chocolate chip cookie. You can't go wrong. I can tell that it's a little drier. I can. There's like not as much textural variance in this cookie, but it still tastes very good, honestly. So these are the 72-hour ones, which I'm personally very excited about. So these, like I said, spread a little bit more, but I think that's also because they were a little bit more room temp. But wow, it's almost like it's laminated with chocolate. It's kind of astounding how much more flavor comes through in this cookie than the 24-hour cookie. It's so, this one's like really good. All-purpose flour. So a lot of people comment and ask if you can just swap out the bread flour and the cake flour for all-purpose flour. So I tried that here. Oh, this looks so good. Honestly, there's not a whole host of difference between the all-purpose flour and the one with the 2 flours. I can just tell though that there is like, in this cookie, more texture variance between the outside and the middle. Brown butter. Probably the most highly suggested variation on swapping ingredients for this was browning the butter. Smell is very key on this. These smell amazing. There are just so many flavors going on in that. It's all very harmonious and like really like complementary of one another. In the 72-hour and this brown butter one, the vanilla just like really comes through a lot more. And in this one, you obviously have like the nuttiness of the brown butter. I put a little bit of milk chocolate in this one too, which is like really nice. These are all my children, honestly. Like I don't know if I could pick one favorite, but I think that the 72-hour ones are the winner because you just get a lot more flavor in them. Original recipe really is like impeccable. And you can see why it's probably the internet's favorite chocolate chip cookie. Or maybe one of the internet's most famous chocolate chip cookies. It's just an icon. She's an icon, she's a star. Moral of the story is all chocolate chip cookies are delicious. There are just some things that you can do to improve your chocolate chip cookie. And I hope that you learned some stuff today. I hope you take some of these tips and tricks with you. And wow, I can't tell if I recommend or do not recommend making 80 cookies in a day, but I'm exhausted and my stomach hurts.